Welcome to part 4 for orals preparation for chief mates. In this video, I'll take up 10 random questions that may be asked to you during your orals examinations by the surveyor. Question 1 for today is that your vessel has just completed taking bunkers. What documentation would you be required to complete as a chief officer? So an entry to the effect of completing bunker operations must be made in the ship's deck logbook as well as in the vessel's oil record book. The oil record book entry must have a double signature with the master signing each page and each separate entry being made by the operational officer, that is you as a chief officer or the chief engineer on the ship. Question number 2 says during an external ISM audit, the ISM inspector finds damage to a ventilator and orders repairs to be made within the next 3 months. What documentation would you expect to receive from the auditor or the inspector? So the auditor would issue a notice of non-conformity as part of the ISM audit or as noting the deficiency. This would usually carry a time limiting period. Provided the damage is rectified in the time period, this notice would be cancelled by a future inspector. So you must complete the repairs within the time limit stipulated in the notice. Otherwise, a deficiency will be noted by the auditor and a further notice will also be provided to you. Question number 3 is, how are the ballast arrangements on the vessel monitored? So the movement of ballast is recorded in the ballast management record book. Entries reflect the ship's position at the time of pumping or transferring ballast quantities, the date and time of operation as well as the identity of respective tanks involved should be mentioned in the record book. Now, as part of the Ballast Water Management Convention, every vessel should be maintaining this book so that if a posted or a flag-state inspector or an auditor comes on board and asks you to produce the records as a chief officer, you should be able to produce the records of any kind of ballast water exchange or discharge or loading that has taken place on your ship. Question number 4 is, what is the period of validity of the load line certificate? So load line certificate, just like most of the harmonized certificates, have a period of validity of 5 years. Question 5 is, what is the significance of the chief officer's repair list? So the repair list is an ongoing list of essential repairs that will be carried out at an appropriate time in the future, and it's normally done during the dry dock period. The list is meant to protect the owner's interest and ensure that any survey work required on the vessel is not overlooked prior to the next survey. Question number 6. A post-state control inspector is due to visit the vessel. What would you expect to prepare on the navigational bridge prior to the inspection? Now there's a whole lot of things that you can do on the navigation bridge to prepare the vessel for the post-state inspector, but I've pretty much covered it under broad categories here. So you should be anticipating that the inspector would check the chart folio as well as the chart correction log. He would expect to see the passage plan and records of navigational warnings together with the statutory publications, bridge equipment and the maintenance manuals with respect to checklist for the testing procedure of bridge equipment should also be covered. A very important thing that you guys must note is that you should be able to reproduce the last voyage or any other voyage that the post officer wants to reproduce. By reproducing the last voyage, I mean you should be able to produce records of the monitoring of the echo sounder, the coast recorder, or the VDR records, as well as VHF communications. So all that should be produced through logbooks or through printouts or through printer receipts, so that the officer or the post inspector is able to monitor your entire last voyage. You should be able to reproduce it and provide evidence that the vessel proceeded along the good principles of seamanship. Question number 7 is, following an accident to a seaman on board your vessel, what action would you be taking? So in the case of any accident to a personnel, you should be ordering the safety officer to investigate the circumstances and make the report of the incident to include witness statements and photographs if appropriate. If you are the safety officer, then of course you would be doing it, but make sure that you take lots and lots of photographs from different angles and pretty much cover the accident scene. Also take witness statements as quickly as possible so there is not much discrepancy between witness statements or the witness provides statement before they forget as to what happened. The safety officer should also be instructed to complete an accident report form, and an entry should be made in the deck logbook as well as in the official logbook of the essential details. So you must also note that in every case which involves injury to personnel, the medical provision would be of course the first priority. So of course we are assuming here that the person who was injured has been provided with medical attention. If it has happened in port, then you should immediately be sending that person to the professional doctors. The accident report forms vary as per the flag state, as per the port also requirements. So if you are in port, but as per flag state requirements, the accident report or the port of registry, it may vary. So make sure that you are aware of what kind of accident report forms that you have to fill. Include the witness statements and the photographs. Include signatures from the witness as well, and include doctor's reports if you can get so. If it is not in sea, if it is in port that the accident happened, then make sure that you get the doctor's report and include the doctor's report in the file as well. Question number 8, what is a mate's receipt? So for those of you who don't sail or probably on cargo ships, you may not know what a mate's receipt is. A mate's receipt is basically a document that is signed by the ship's mate or the chief officer to acknowledge the receipt of cargo on board the vessel. It basically forms the basis for the final bill of lading that is provided by the agent and the cargo shipper. So this is normally done on cargo ships, especially on general cargo ships, bulk carriers and container ships, as well as ro-ro ships, of course. So any kind of ships that are carrying cargo, the mate's receipt is issued by the chief officer. Question number 9. Under the ISM Convention, what certificate is initially given to a new ship and what is the period of validity? So a new ship would be issued with an interim safety management certificate, which is valid for a period of 12 months. And then of course, that is graduated to a safety management certificate, the original copy of which is kept by the ship and a copy is kept by the company. The last question for today is, following an accident where the ship has run aground, what actions would you expect to be taken as a chief officer of the vessel? So if the vessel has experienced grounding, the chief officer would expect to report his intention to the master to carry out a damage assessment. Firstly, this assessment would expect to address the following items. First being the watertight integrity of the hull, which means you should be inspecting the vessel to ensure that there is no water ingress, no compartments are getting flooded. Make sure that you can ask the bosun and the crew to take soundings of tanks to make sure that you are monitoring the ingress of water into the vessel. The condition of the engine room, hopefully there should not be any ingress of water in the engine room as well. Make a casualty report as to what happened, how it happened. Include again photographic evidence as well as witness statements. If there is any evidence of pollution, so again include photographic evidence. Subsequent actions should also include taking a full set of tank soundings as well as oversight soundings, paying particular attention to the bow and the stern areas. It is assumed that on the outcome of the chief officer's damage report, the master would open up communications with relevant interested parties, and that would be your company, your ship owners, charterers, agents, shore agencies, VTS if it has happened in the jurisdiction of any VTS. The chief officer would advise the master throughout this period to display the signals to indicate a vessel aground, and also recommend that the ship's anchors are walked back to prevent the possibility of accidental refloating in a possibly damaged state. So vessel aground lights or a vessel aground day signal should also be displayed. Ballast adjustments must be necessary at some stage to engage in the refloating of the vessel. So it is prudent to deploy anchors to prevent accidental refloating at an inappropriate time. So especially if you refloat again when the vessel does not have enough water to refloat, or the depth of water is not enough for the vessel to refloat, it may again lead to some kind of a grounding incident which may harm the vessel further. So make sure that you're very aware of the tidal data in that region. You are aware of what time the tide will be flooding, so that the vessel may be easily refloated. Alright, the important thing here is to make sure that you make a thorough inspection. If it is possible, then you should be also launching your lifeboats and going around the vessel to carry out an external check as well, apart from the internal check. So mention all these points to the surveyor, and hopefully the surveyor should be happy with your answer. So I'll continue with these videos. I'll come out with some more videos in the future, and in every video I'll take up randomly 7, 8 or 10 questions, and we'll have a discussion on this, trying to keep these videos short. And I'm also trying to keep the answers short, because the quicker or the shorter the answer you give to the surveyor covering all the relevant points, and the quicker the surveyor will move on to the next question. So the idea here is not to tell stories, but the idea here is to cover the relevant and essential integral points of your answer, so that the surveyor knows that you are well prepared to answer his or her questions. Thanks guys, keep watching and keep subscribing to get notification about my further videos. I'll see you soon with my next video. Bye guys.